Hi, I'm Kim Anderson, President of the Faribault Area Chamber of Commerce. One of the initiatives of our chamber is to help our businesses, our members in the community, have a dynamic and well-trained workforce. And so this program is about what makes Faribault work. What are the cool jobs and interesting things that people can do for everyday work here in Faribault? Maybe you wonder what kind of jobs there are out there. And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting job right here in Faribault. We have Courtney Cowan with us, and she is with the Caves of Faribault. Hi, Courtney.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about what you do. I think we're going to be able to even see what she does here today.
I work at the Caves of Faribault, and I work in the lab here. So I do a lot of the analytical testing, micro testing, checking for any pathogens of bacteria in our cheese, also checking for what our butter fat is, our salt percent, moisture percent, our pHs, stuff like that. And then I also go out on the floor and I keep an eye on making sure that everything's clean, and the employees are keeping everything clean and good to go, so that while we're processing and making, we're not creating bacteria and stuff on the floor as well.
So the title of your job is?
Lab technician.
Lab technician. And how do you become a lab technician at the Caves of Faribault? What's the progression? How did you learn how to do this?
I actually started up at the store, working at the Cheese Cave store. They asked me to come down here and work. I had a little bit of a biology background in school.
Okay.
And so they asked me to come down here, and they brought me in the lab, and I started working in here and doing all the testing for them.
So when you say a little bit of a biology background, tell me more about that. Was that just an interest you had as a student?
I originally went to school to be a nurse, and it didn't end up working out, so that's the biology I have and sciences I had was for nursing stuff.
Wonderful.
So.
That's interesting. You know, not everybody takes a straight line with the career, right?
Nope.
You make some choices, try some things, and you never know where it might lead, and here you are. So looks like you've set up to show us a little bit about how you do your work.
We always make sure we have gloves on. Even if your hands are washed or anything, we always have gloves on whenever we're touching the raw product. So what I do is I go out into the caves, and kind of the process of our cheese is, right now it's at about 20 days of sitting out in the cave and aging. So it's got the nice good color to it. So right now is when we're going to test it for its moisture, its butter fat, its pH, and its salt content. So I take the individual wheel, nice slice out of each side so that I get a good portion of the entire wheel.
Okay.
And then I take this little grinder.
Now this is a process that was developed ages ago, or are there a lot of new technologies?
There is newer technologies. We kind of go back, we kind of use a little bit of the older ones and newer ones mixed together. So we have to figure out the right amount of cheese to go to the right amount of stuff, so that we're testing the actual percentage of everything. So we shred that all up and kind of mix it around so that it's...
Yeah, I'm getting hungry, I can tell you that. Smells really good.
This cup, that way it's lidded so that when we test it for the moisture content stays into the cheese.
Otherwise, after
as it sits out, the moisture will leave the cheese. So this is what we're going to test our butter fat in. So we have to get all this shredded cheese in that nice little bowl.
That makes it a little tricky.
Yep.
Is that the hardest part of your day right there?
Some days, yeah. Some days you have stickier cheese and then it gets really hard to get in there, and other days it's not as sticky and it goes right in. So it's...
So when you were a kid, were you always doing science experiments and, blowing things up in the kitchen and that kind of thing?
Not really. I mean, we were outside a lot and we did a lot of hands-on playing with stuff, but between me and my brother, we were always into all kinds of things. So
never afraid to try something new, huh?
Nope. So you have to get a certain amount of cheese in here. it's kind of a process sometimes.
It has to be an exact amount or at least in a certain amount?
It's got to be about 9.2 grams
Okay.
at plus or minus 0.1.
Okay.
So then we're also going to take this cup and we're going to put 5 grams of cheese in this one. And this is what we're going to test our salt in.
So the different cheeses that you produce have different variables that you're looking for, like the salt content or the moisture content based on the recipe?
Yeah. Yep. They have a little bit different, most part for like our gourds and our blues, that's all going to be pretty close. But some of our other cheeses that we bring in, the Goudas and stuff like that, those ones are going to be a little bit different.
And how many different kinds of cheeses are produced here?
We just started doing a pasteurized blue cheese. We make a heat treat blue cheese that is unpasteurized, and then we do a gorgonzola, and we also do fresh cheese curds.
Very familiar with those.
The fresh cheese curds, yes, those are very good. They're very good when you get them right out of the vat, nice and
they're
squeaky.
warm,
Yep.
right?
And then we do what we call affinage. We bring in cheese from another company, and then we age it here. With our caves being one of the only places that uses natural sandstone to age it, it's very desired flavor. So we have companies ask us if we can bring their cheese in and age it here. So we have a couple of Goudas and a cheddar that we do that with.
Okay, so what are you doing now?
This is adding the right amount of water mixture with the cheese so that we can figure out what the salt content is.
Okay.
pH, we just take one of the cups that we had earlier and we put this probe in it. And then that'll test what our pH is for our cheese. And it's usually right around 5. Our salt, we're going to take what we just ground up and mix together with the water. And stir it up together.
I don't know, it's kind of getting this it's real science.
Yes.
Maybe, it's old world cheese making, but this is modern science and discovery of maybe what at one time was more of a taste and see. This is really getting into the specifics.
We have customers that they ask for specific, we have specs that our cheese has to be in range. So that's why we have to test every vat that we make to make sure that it's in range for what our customer wants it to be. So we put a little bit of that in there, and then this will run and it'll measure the amount of salt that we have in the cheese.
So again, there's a desirable number there that you're shooting for.
Yep.
What happens if it's off? Then how is that adjusted in the recipe?
We have to figure out why it got off in the process somehow and where that happened. That cheese will not get tossed. It'll get put into a different product or something, but it won't be necessarily a whole wheel or a wedge, but it will we'll make it into something.
Used in a different
it'll be
way.
used in a different way so that it's not discarded.
Okay.
The butterfat one I can do. It's a little bit longer process, but we have to, basically what we would do with that one is we add an acid to it and it melts down the cheese and it separates the cheese and all the butterfat out of it. And then the butterfat will all build up in this column, and then you measure the percent of butterfat that's in there.
Well, how long have you been doing this work?
I've been here for 3 years.
Okay. And this is done every day, or what else do you do as part of your work?
This is done 2 days a week, depending on how many vats of cheese we made throughout the process. But other days, we take the cheese and we test it at a certain age. We test it for bacteria. We test it for like pathogens, coliform, E. coli, stuff like that,
Sure.
and make sure that everything's
Just
clean
like
before it can go.
any food would go through a process like that in any food production
Yep.
company, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And we do some testing in-house, and then we send some out to a laboratory to do some of it as well.
So you like this part of it? Yeah. Are there other parts of the job that you could tell us a little bit about?
I also like being able to go out into the plant and keep my eyes open and see what we can do better to keep stuff cleaner and prevent the bacteria from even starting to grow in the cheese if we can. So
Sure. The bad bacteria.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like pretty much everything I do here. It's a lot of fun.
It's really about science. It's so interesting to see the process that you go through and the different steps that are taken, and to hear a little bit about how that works.
Yeah.
We're going to come back and talk a little bit more to Courtney in just a moment.
The Faribault Area Chamber of Commerce would like to thank Steel-Waseca Cooperative Electric for sponsoring this episode of Faribault Works.
So we're here at the Caves of Faribault with Courtney Cowan, and it's been fascinating to learn about the science that goes on here to make the cheese that we all are so proud of in the community and brag about and send all over as we tell people what's made here in Faribault. And you grew up here, right?
Correct.
So what were you interested in? What did you think you might want to do? You talked a little bit about maybe wanting to be a nurse, but you were involved in a lot of science classes, huh?
Yeah, nursing was my original passion. I love working with people, but when I started working here, I work with people every day, and it's been a blast. And
Great.
I love the science aspect of everything too.
So what other jobs might people do in a place like this?
We have actual cheese makers, so we have people out on the floor that actually make the cheese, create it, starting from the raw milk all the way through the process of packaging it. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of very interesting learning how milk can go from milk to a finished product.
And
like
a lot
cheese.
to celebrate when so many awards and so much good news is always out there about what is produced here at the Caves of Faribault. So tell us a little bit about what you do for fun.
I have a 16-month-old daughter at home, so
Keeps you busy?
she keeps me plenty busy. I'm going to be going back to school here soon for a biology degree, actually. So,
Okay.
But we basically just hang out at home. We live on a farm, and we love playing outside.
And you grew up here, so tell us what you like about now being a worker in a legendary company in the community that you grew up in.
It's great. I love Faribault's been a great community. There's so many interesting things in Faribault. It's very fun to live here, and it's exciting.
And it's
to
never,
be a part of it.
it's always nice to be close to family too.
Yes.
I always tell my kids that who have not moved anywhere near back home that
Yes, we have a very large family, so it's a lot of fun. So.
that's great. That's good. Well, Courtney, what a blast to see what you actually do and to kind of get behind the scenes here at the Caves of Faribault, which is kind of one of those wonderful things that I've always wanted to do. So you kind of made one of my little dreams come true here today too. We love producing this program. It gives us an opportunity to talk about the great jobs that are available in our community and the interesting things that people do every day. They get up and go to work, and we don't get to see behind the scenes too often. So we hope that you've enjoyed this little peek behind the scenes at Caves of Faribault. And if you have other ideas for programs, we'd love to hear about it. This program called Faribault Works is produced by the Faribault Area Chamber of Commerce with TLT Productions, and it's sponsored by Steel-Waseca Cooperative Electric.